Hello, I'm Andrew J. Franklin, and this is the Franklin Dispatch. I'm a former Marine and longtime resident or expert in African affairs, political science, and the like. Today, I'm just going to mention how oil has spiked above $100 a barrel and will probably continue to rise, mainly because there is a resumption of the war between the effective government in Yemen, that is the Houthis or Ansar Allah, who are allied with the Iranians, and the American ally, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, which is a longtime foe or opponent of the Houthis in Yemen, went through a very bruising conflict with them and essentially lost, but is now exchanging rocket fire, missiles, and drone strikes against the cities of Yemen, and Yemen is retaliating against Saudi Arabian oil facilities, as well as lobbing missiles at Saudi-flagged oil tankers. In effect, or in essence, the Red Sea itself will be shutting down, if not already shut by the time you listen to me or see me. And that will have an immediate effect on the price of oil, the price of fuel, and wherever you fill up. Other consequences and ripple effects will be increasing prices again of fertilizer as it becomes short, which then cascades into higher food prices and so on and so forth. But what is this all about? What is this all about? And why should we care? Besides other than the immediate effect on our wallets, it's worthwhile considering that the Houthis, although labeled a pro-Iranian or Iranian-backed regime, have restored some element of stability to a country, Yemen, which has basically been in conflict with itself for 60 years. These are people, tough, hardy people, who have learned to live in a state of total war, or untotal war, but a forever war, something that we're now going to be getting used to again. The Houthis are squaring off again against Saudi Arabia, which is an ally of the United States. And this past week, the Saudi government concluded an agreement with the Trump administration to allow it to enrich its own uranium and develop uranium as for nuclear fuel, so that it can wean itself away from oil or fossil fuels. Irony of all is that the fossil fuels that we depend on have come from Saudi Arabia and many of the Persian Gulf countries, as well as from our own domestic sources. But the Saudis now have enough money and they want to develop nuclear energy. All good. The one sticking point, apparently, is that the Saudis, in order to conclude the deal with the United States, have to normalize relations with Israel, a real bugaboo, or fly in the ointment, and also agree not to develop their own nuclear weapons. In other words, the rationale for the war Trump began on February 28th, which is that Iran is trying to develop its own nuclear weapons, and we can't allow that to happen, is going to be something that the Saudis themselves are going to have to agree not to do. Something that they really are not interested in agreeing to, so long as they are in competition with Iran. Very confusing, very confusing. The long and the short of it is, however, that the Middle East, or this portion of the Middle East, which takes in the Horn of African states of Eritrea, parts of Sudan, Somaliland, Djibouti, Kenya, and of course, federal government of Somalia in Mogadishu, Somalia, has become a cockpit of conflict, even more so today than it has been at any other time, mainly because the Straits of Hormuz are also shut down again as the United States and Iran trade attacks, trade missiles, trade strikes, trade vitriolic rhetoric, and may or may not be engaging in negotiations. What we can see in the next few days will be an increase, a ramping up, if you will, of the violence between Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, and Saudi Arabia. Now, depending on how the United States reacts, that is, will we be assisting Saudi Arabia by running airstrikes over Yemen? That we've done that in the past. The United States has bombed Yemen in the past. We have bombed the Houthis in Yemen. We perceive them as just another one of our enemies in this global war on terror. But when we bomb them, we seem to act in a way that ignores the fact that just across the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, in a small former French colony known as Djibouti, the United States maintains a very large military presence at a former French military base, Camp Lemonnier. So in the next few days, I believe we will see the Houthis lobbing missiles, sending drones to attack U.S. forces in Djibouti. Just to add a little bit more spice to this mix, there is the fact that over the last couple of years, Al-Shabab, an Al-Qaeda leaning affiliate in Somalia, which has been running an insurgency against the government in Mogadishu, conducting an insurgency since 2006, 2007, that Al-Shabab has been developing very close ties with the Houthis. Reports have indicated that Al-Shabab now has developed its own drone capacity that is manufacturing and employment. Reporters from Associated Press and other media houses have visited Somalia. They have observed that the Houthis remain very strong and active in the rural areas, the peri-urban areas. That Al-Shabab, in fact, as they are also able to exact taxes on the people of Somalia. They make a lot of money by taxing illicit trade in weapons and humans and drugs. They also apparently run protection rackets inside the port of Mogadishu. And it's been reported that Al-Shabaab collects as much, if not more, revenue from imports and exports than does the federal government of Somalia, which is nominally in control and recognized by the United Nations as the government of all of Somalia, including, I suppose, Somaliland, which has been essentially an independent state since 1991 or 1992, and which was recently recognized by Israel. Israel, which established an embassy in the Somaliland capital of Hargeisa. And the Somaliland government established its embassy in Jerusalem, violating all manner of customs and policies, stated and unstated, imposed by the Arab League, the African Union, common sense. So that's where we are today. News reports indicate increasing exchanges between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis who are backed by Iran, but not necessarily under the control of Iran, and the Saudis, backed by the United States, and definitely not under our control, are getting set to have yet another war in their decades-long conflict. How will this pan out? Well, it can't be very good. And I believe U.S. interests in the entire region will suffer the longer this situation remains active. Have a great day. This is Andrew Franklin, once again from the Franklin Dispatch, saying take care.